It's saying it's going live. So let's see what, and my screen just got really dark. It just went really dark. Let me see. What happened? Whenever we go and we change anything on an account, it always, okay, we're live. I see it. Okay, so I'm going to close it on here. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to go live and stream this spotlight session in a really unique way. Ooh, as I'm over here just fumbling everything. Good grief. Can you tell I'm excited? Okay, so welcome. Today's spotlight session, we are hosting Miss Katelyn. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, sorry, I just started
technology. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself? We've all been there.
Yes, okay. Hi, I'm Katelyn Anne-Marie. I'm a leadership and business coach. I infuse Ayurveda as well as other holistic healing methodologies into the coaching that I do. And I have a background in marketing, and I've helped dozens of entrepreneurs start and scale their businesses. So many coaches, healers, soulpreneurs, and I get lit up by this. We're going to be talking about a little bit of the woo and a little bit of the do. And I'm excited to be able to share all of that with you. My mission is to help soulpreneurs be more successful, because that success creates a pathway to do more good in the world. And the more that you are able to live your purpose and scale that business, the more you're able to help more people. So thank you so much for having me here today, Kendra. I'm really excited to dive into this talk with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you. And I absolutely love these interactions because I feel like magic happens in conversation, whether we realize it or not. And I had shared something earlier today too, because as I was getting ready, I also, when we do those kind of mindless things where everything just kind of like downloads in our brain and it's like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Or you start connecting the dots as to why certain things happened, or you replay conversations, right? So I had one of those moments today, and it was so beautiful because in conversation is where a lot of flow happens when we feel stuck or stagnant. And a lot of people are resistant to that because they feel as though they can't talk about things. They can't talk about this other side of them, or this creative part of them that they want to share that just hasn't been highlighted to their family and friends yet. So they haven't stepped into that power of being seen in that light, right? So a part of that I feel is a huge component into infusing your creative spark in your business and in your soul purpose. Do you have anything that you would recommend to someone who is just starting out and just beginning to step out and be seen in their purpose or understand their purpose? And, kind of navigating those first few steps so that they can eventually magnetize their tribe, their people, and that collective that they're here to be of service to.
Oh, yes. I have so much I can say about this. I have so many clients who are just in those beginning phases. And so some of this is truly just advice that I give over and over to clients, and things that we are constantly refining and refocusing. And the main one is start messy. No one is going to hire you if they don't know that they're able to. You are going to struggle to figure out your clarity if you don't take action and take messy action to understand what suits you. And we're going to talk a little bit about self-mastery today, but some of that comes down to what's true for your unique energetic blueprint, because there's a million ways to live out your purpose, and you'll probably live out thousands of ways, thousands of iterations of your purpose just in this lifetime. And then compare that to billions of people on the planet living out their purpose, right? There's just infinite ways for it to be expressed. And at certain seasons, it will want to be expressed in a certain way. And it's better to take that messy action, right? It's better to dive into it and just put it out there. If it's like, I have a client right now who's in that really messy phase of, not totally being clear on what her high ticket offering is that she's putting out there, but she has this idea about a workshop and a weekend retreat. And, so much of the time we want all the pieces in place. We want to know, this is what I'm doing. And then after this, I'm doing this. And I'm so guilty of this.
Yes.
Speaking for But the reality is that you really don't know until you know, and you have to create evidence for yourself. You have to create momentum for yourself. And that comes from just stepping forward. And also, another thing here is when you are working things out, very similar to what you were just saying, like we work things out through conversation.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times when we're really flowing, we channel things that maybe our ego mind has been blocking, right? Our subconscious can come forward because our conscious mind is distracted by whatever's happening and trying to, keep a conversation going, that our conscious mind can actually kick on and be like, this is the thing, right? Or you can feel a difference in your body when you start talking about things, and some things a yes in your body and some things a no in your body. So also masterminding, like getting in community with people in this Facebook group, people in other Facebook groups, people in group coaching programs, people in your neighborhood who are entrepreneurs, like get yourself at the table that is going to activate and expand you, and take responsibility. And there's another word that's coming to me, right? Like step forward, be bold, right? And say the things and try different things on, and take responsibility of creating the path yourself, and knowing that you are the one that's creating it, right? Like you are the power behind it. You are the energy behind it. Yeah. So you have to get behind it. You have to kind of put the wind in the sails.
Yeah. I love so much of what you're sharing, because like my heart is lighting up just listening to you, because I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And that's what we want to activate within the people that we build community with, right? Because as we step up and we shine our light, and we are messy and we are imperfect, but we still show up, it allows other people to say, hey, if so-and-so can do that, why can't I? Why can't I show up and be messy? Why can't I show up and practice? And I use the word practice so often. I know probably my clients or people that work with me a lot get so tired of the word, but I feel as though we become so informed on what works for us or what is not aligned for us by practicing. Maybe I don't want to host live workshops. Maybe I don't want to host retreats. Maybe I do want to run an online business, or maybe I want a brick and mortar business. How would you know unless you try? And if you kind of let ego know, like, you are a part of me, you are a part of this journey, but you have to be in balance. So just hold space so that, you do what you're here to do, protect and inform without blocking, so that I can practice, so that I can start showing up and see what doesn't work, or what I like, or what lights me up, because I am safe to explore. It is safe for me to be seen and share this gift, because it's the purpose. It's the reason, it's the why, right? Oh, I could go for days talking about that. But when you were talking about that, every part of me was just like lighting up, because it is so important to have those people who are like, if they're not holding your hand and saying, come this way, right? They're doing the things that when you look at them, you're inspired to show up and be more of your authentic self. If you're looking around you, and this is something even in the military that I noticed too, if you're looking around yourself and you're surrounded by people who are a certain way of thinking or a certain way of showing up, you become very complacent in that environment, right? But if you have people who are constantly striving to learn, striving to get out of that box, striving to do something outside of what's acceptable or normal, you're going to start questioning, well, why am I doing this? Or how come I haven't done this? Or why haven't I taken another class or gotten another certificate? Or I wonder what I could do, right? And then that's where what you mentioned before about you step into self-mastery, because now you have to say, who am I? How am I going to show up? What ways do I want to show up? And what really lights me up, so that you can be more of that authentic self, right? I don't mean to go on too long about that, but
Can I add to that? I want to I just there are so many good things just hearing you reflect it back. And we spoke a bit before doing this interview about two things that were really coming up. One is sisterhood wounds,
Yeah.
and the other is strategy. And, creating a community for yourself that holds you accountable
Yes.
to expand, to keep going, right? To not be complacent, to not settle, right? That's a very particular community. It might be very different from the one that you have. And I think that a lot of people, when they're starting out, they overlook the fact that getting in those spaces is part of the strategy.
Yes.
You are trying to grow. It's not just, okay, I put out emails once a week and I do this and I build this funnel and all of that. It's not just those business pieces. It's also the environment you're in. Is it activating you? That's a strategy.
Yes. I have full body chills listening to you. I'm so excited. I feel like a giddy little kid because I love conversations like these. And I know it's probably one of our amazing group members was teasing me yesterday about my human design profile. And a part of my profile is I love bringing people together and connecting the dots for them, which is done in community. And it's even if you aren't my client or participating in my services, if I know someone who knows someone or has a program or has something, I am a dot connector because I genuinely want my community to rise up and become better, to become more of themselves, more of what lights them up. And I understand that sometimes we're just the bridge, right? We are just there to bridge a gap for someone to get them where they're going. And it's not about, I'm supposed to take this person, which I've noticed in my clients, this happens sometimes where they feel like they have to take their client from the very beginning of being seen in their business all the way to they're making $10 million a month, right? But that's not your purpose. If your purpose is to get people feeling spiritually or energetically or strategically aligned with something, then stand in your purpose, right? Evolve in your purpose, evolve in your business, but don't limit yourself by saying, I have to do all of the things before going through the steps to gain all of the tools, to gain the team and that community around you to help support you so that you stay in that flow of your, zone of genius, so that you stay in your zone of genius and don't get so distracted with all of the other bits that can leave you burnt out or drained, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm eating it up.
It's so important. And I know when I began, oh my gosh, so I got out of the Army the end of 2016. It's when I was medically retired, and I really began my journey as a soulpreneur in 2017 without realizing what I was doing. I was like, I just know that there's more. And I know that my heart is saying that there's more. And I had to go through all of the really icky stuff because I was still in a very toxic mind state. And I was around people who supported that toxic mind state, right? Mm-hmm. So it kind of circles back to what you were saying before with the sisterhood wounds and your community and really being in a place where you can thrive. But we have to be so insanely accountable and responsible for our own behaviors in that process too, which is, it takes your breath away because sometimes you have to say, I was the toxic person.
Yeah.
I was the problem.
That can be really hard to admit, right?
Yeah.
And especially we live in a society that doesn't necessarily give us permission to mess up, right? Failure has such a negative connotation around it. And simultaneously, it's little bits of failure over and over again that allow us to succeed over time, right? It gives us evidence. It gives us this opportunity to be in a space of trial and error to figure out what works, what doesn't work. As entrepreneurs, that's basically the job description, is figuring out how to solve problems. Yeah. Right? Whether that's within your own business, something breaks and you've got to fix it, or hire someone to fix it, or if that's you have a client who is trying to get from A to B and your position is, I'm going to help find a solution for this so that this person doesn't fall through the cracks and they can get served and they can get helped and we can change the world in that way.
Yeah.
That is, it comes back to creating a strategy for yourself, which also means setting up pathways, like setting up pathways for the evolution of what's coming through with your work, which you kind of mentioned here of like, so many people feel they need to be the magic pill, and it's not true. When you're trying to be the magic pill, you're putting way too much pressure on yourself. You're also stepping into a space of, and we're all guilty of it, we all have heart-centered leadership within us and ego-centered leadership within us. And it is a practice to navigate when ego's stepping in, because we're human and we all have an ego. This is just part of how we're designed, and coming back to heart-centered leadership and recognizing like, what part of the journey am I supposed to be helping my client with? Because when you really know it and you love it and you're lit up by it and you have ways to solve that problem, then everything gets to flow, right? That pathway is opened up, rather than when we're trying to be the magic pill and we're trying to solve every problem. And, this person applied to work with me and they have to work with me. And like, we get attached because we're human and attachment is part of our process.
Yeah.
That's where we start blocking opportunities for ourselves. I was talking to a friend right before this about, pushing on the pull door. Like, how often do we push on the pull door? And meanwhile, you step 5 feet over to the right and there's an automatic door. There's literally a door that you stand in front of it and there's a camera that catches you and just poof, it opens for you.
Oh my goodness. Yes. That was me in the beginning too. Oh my gosh, I love that. Because I can literally, I can tell you how many times, I can't tell you how many times I've pushed on the pull door and then had that resistance and missed the big sign that says the instructions right in front of your face too, right?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, yes. So much of that is a part of the process, and it gives us the tools to take that lesson forward first. Like you go through the process, you understand it, you learn, you take away the lesson so that when you come to another door, you understand to just look around instead of trying to do the opposite of what it's telling you to do, right? Because there's that resistance. And I love that you mentioned how we have our ego and we have our heart, right? Or some people want to say we have our mind of our, like our actual mind, and we have our heart. So we're trying to bridge in between the balance of caring for people and serving in our purpose and having the life that we desire, and creating something where we don't take advantage or have people feeling really, really bad when they work with us, right?
Mhm.
And when you said that, it reminded me of when I first started navigating, like, who am I? When the early journey of navigating like myself and my desires and my heart. I'm like, who am I that I can help someone? Like, yeah, I have this background in the military and I have these things, but like, how can I help someone outside of the military? And trying to negotiate with my ego, who was telling me I was good with my uniform on. I
Mm.
wasn't good outside of the uniform. And then having family and friends who had always known me a certain way in life, trying to, this is why I say what I say about labels and how I try not to work in the world of labels, because it limits how people can engage with you. They put you in a box that says you're a nurse. This is what you're good at. These are your things. I'm not going to see you as a mother. I'm not going to see you as someone who's funny or a comedian. You're a nurse. Random example, but that's what it is, right? So working with labels and all of that, it's something that I had to learn to navigate, because I'm like, well, who am I if my ego is telling me that I'm not this, or I'm not worthy, or it's not safe to be seen? Or then my family or friends are coming to me and they're asking me why I'm being so radically honest and why I'm doing all of these things that are going against the grain, right?
Mhm.
But once you start navigating that for yourself, you understand that it's safe to be seen, because those people who criticize or ridicule or judge how you're showing up and the work that you're doing, you're not responsible for how they receive you. You're responsible for showing up. You're responsible for telling your truth so that you can magnetize the collective of people that you are here to be of service to. And I say that the way that I do because sometimes that's not our family. It's not the friends who have known us in this season. And we have to be okay. Again, bringing up attachment, right? We have to be okay with letting it go so that we can have more. And it's like you have to free your hands. And I always think of the Trevor Noah story where he's talking about where he was a little boy and his mom was trying to give him some candies, right? But he had a handful of candy that he shouldn't have had. And his mom was trying to tell him, like, let go of that. Let it go. Like, trust and let it go. And then you can have all of this. And so when he finally let go, then he got 2 handfuls of candy, right? That was meant for him, that he could have and enjoy. But it's going through the process of trusting and releasing so that you can allow more to flow and understanding that everything is seasonal. And a lot of my clients, I don't want to get off topic or anything, but a lot of my clients happen to be parents. And I feel that this is divinely a part of what my assignment of learning is, right? A lot of times as parents, we make our children or partners our purpose, forgetting that those people have their own purpose outside of us. So then there's this whole identity crisis when the kid goes to college or the kid gets married or there's a divorce or there's a split or there's this impasse where things don't align the way that you've kind of like made them up to be in your head, right? And I'm sharing this because I know from having conversations with some people in this space and in this group, a lot of the fear of showing up comes from those relationships and assigning those people, places, or things as a part of your purpose. So I just wanted to share that. Is there anything that you want to say? I've been talking for so long. I know that this is like such a good conversation. I could talk with you forever.
I know. I'm so curious if anyone's like commenting or if there are questions on anything specific. I was trying to like pull up the group and then internet things were.
Yeah, so failing is good. Miss Fran just jumped on. I know a lot of the people are at work right now, so that they said that they would come on for the replay. I'm not seeing questions right now though.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that speaks to a lot of people of like, you know, what are you putting as the center point? Like what if the center point is your purpose, what are you putting there? And it can be maybe you're a parent and you're putting a child there, you know, or you're a partner and you're putting your relationship there, or you're a business owner and you're putting your business there.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the center point is something so much bigger than that, right? It's like the center point should be the thing that 40 years from now, you'll look back and be like, yeah, that actually made everything else better, right? Like putting joy at the center made my relationship to my children and my partner and my business all better. And I think that's a key thing to come back to. So I've been an entrepreneur since 2013. I illustrated, published a children's book that taught American Sign Language for families of children with disabilities. And it's called Signing Together. It's still on Amazon. So
plug.
It's still out there. I don't make any money from it. It literally was just something that I put out there to help the planet. Yeah. And it led to me being approached by a local entrepreneur who asked me to do his marketing. And I remember having that conversation and him looking at me and being like, I want to hire you. And I was like, sir, these are books. You just buy the books. Like, I don't understand. What are you talking about? Yeah. And like now that's just the funniest conversation to me because it was so in my blind spot that I had developed a skill for marketing and spent 2 years creating this book, but the book also created this new version of myself and I wasn't seeing it. And this man approached me, gave me an opportunity, and that opportunity led to me within the first month being booked out with marketing clients and for the next 5 years, that business ran itself off of referrals.
Wow.
And I did some other things here and there. And I also started a yoga business. So that was more when I stepped into the soulpreneur life.
Yeah.
And a few years after that, I felt that I was kind of split in two, like being this person who was a marketer and being this person who was a yoga teacher and a life coach. And one day it clicked. And there was definitely a greater point to this, and I'm getting a little sidetracked.
No, no, but it makes sense how you're sharing them both, because a soulpreneur is a creative, and that's exactly what you were doing. So when you were talking about then kind of pulling in the spiritual side of that, of yourself and the activities that you're doing and learning to kind of mesh them together, what did that end up looking like for you in your experience?
Mm, yeah, I think what sparked this was we were talking about magnetic marketing.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the things that we were going to talk about today. And I had mentioned earlier about like blocking the pathways. I
Yeah.
had two businesses. They were both thriving.
Yeah.
I dissolved my marketing business. I gave my yoga business to somebody else who was then able to be full time. Like they were both really good businesses. It wasn't that the pathways weren't there. It wasn't that it wasn't good. It wasn't that my clients were unhappy. Everyone was really satisfied. I hardly had to do anything.
Yeah.
And then when I brought everything together, it unlocked something.
Mhm.
And some of that was fear of what people would think,
Yeah.
fear of not being accepted, right? We all kind of have that rejection wound, I
Mhm.
think. Um, which actually my boyfriend dumped me when I launched this business.
Oh my word. He dumped you?
Legitimately dumped me the week of the launch. He was very gentle about it, and we had a very conscious conversation. And he was a little immature, and I was making more money than him, and he felt emasculated. And when I started my business, he was like, I know that's going to be really good, and it scares me, and I don't think I can be your boyfriend, was basically the gist of it.
That's radical responsibility. So instead of him stepping up and saying, let's become great together, he just removed
He tapped
himself.
out.
That's like, it's divine. Okay.
Yeah. And along the lines of what you were saying earlier is the fact that when you step more into alignment,
Mhm.
right, we're actually never out of alignment. Like, I just think that's a whole story. Like, how could you be out of alignment with who you are? You're literally physically in your body,
Yeah.
right? It's just that you get deterred a little bit, right? And so many people are so worried about what it's going to feel like when things fall away, or you know um, how to get the things that are out of alignment out of our space. And the reality is that those things are not meant to stay. They're not meant to last. So, like this story, the reason why I wanted to share it was there was so much fear, and I was not ready. But ready is somebody who says ready is a lie. There's an entrepreneur, I'm blanking on her name right now. Um, Cute little blonde woman. I can see her face, but I can't remember her name right now. I'm sure somebody in the space is like, pick me. I know. Ready is a lie. That's like her slogan. And it's true. Like, I was not ready, and it was scary. And I stepped into it. And as I stepped in, everything fell away. There's a friend of mine who does similar work, and she calls it the quantum crumble.
Mhm.
And it's the quantum crumble has to happen so that the quantum leap can happen, right? We need space for those things. And so with magnetic marketing, I'm not getting into like the marketing aspect right now, but so much of the magnetism behind the marketing, right? Because it's not that you have an algorithm or you have a strategy and that makes the marketing magnetic. It's actually you, right? It's you being in your magnetism and then doing the marketing.
Yes.
And so when I started this business, there was a quantum crumble, And then everything came in. I booked out my one-to-one coaching. I doubled my income. I tripled my income within the first 6 months. I wound up starting my signature group program, which is the Soul Line Business Academy, which still runs today and has helped people, leave their full-time jobs to go full-time in their business. They've put their everything together, their back end, their front end, all the things in their business because of it. But so much needed to clear away for the ease and the flow to happen. And ease and flow happens with the duality of challenge.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a spiel. There were a lot of things in there.
There were a lot of things, but so much value. And, it doesn't matter who you follow. Any person who has a platform that has been motivational or inspirational or something like that says something similar. And we are so resistant to it until we find the person who says it in the way that we are willing to receive it.
Mm.
And as you were telling that story of the quantum crumble, it reminded me of many years ago, I saw Steve Harvey, like of all the people, right? Like, because this is what I was watching. Like it was, I think it was when his book was coming out and like all of that stuff was coming out. And I was like behind the scenes, just kind of like taking in different speakers and people who are inspirational and different things and just trying to figure out my place. And he had said, kind of like the Trevor Noah story. I'm so corny with these stories that I give, but they resonated with me so that I can move into action. So making room, and Steve Harvey was talking about living with his mom, his beat up car being in the front yard, and talking about wanting a new car. And his mother always responded, "What are you going to do with the one in the driveway?" And it wasn't until he made room, got rid of the car that was on the blocks, put it somewhere, got rid of it, sold it, whatever he did. It's been so long since I've heard the story now. But he made room for it. Then he got the car that he wanted, right? Because he made space. And a lot of time it is terrifying to make space for yourself in business, to have yourself magnetize what it is that you're calling in, because you have this death grip on everything else, right? Everything else that you fought so hard to get, that was to teach you a lesson, to give you a tool or a resource, that it's like, well, I can't let go for fear that if you let go, you're just going to forget the lesson or no longer be able to have flow in with ease or be deserving of it almost, right?
Yeah. The thing that's coming to me as you're talking about that is, I work with a lot of people that we will do the more like strategic, like marketing things as well as leadership.
Yeah.
And one thing that I see a lot is when somebody is like, "Oh, I'm ready to do this," they actually they'll expand and they'll contract almost simultaneously. It's like a dance.
Yeah.
And so something that I see often is this hesitation around creating the space. And so in business, oftentimes that looks like, all right, if you want to call in one-to-one clients, where do you want them to go in your schedule? Right? How many do you want? What do you want that to feel like? What do you want it to look like? And what do you want the onboarding process to look like? What do you want the sales process to look? And not just look, but feel, right? And when you tune into that, do you have the system set up, right? As soulpreneurs, I find that a lot of soulpreneurs, some are more attracted to the more creative side of things, and some are more attracted to the more like earthy or like maybe fiery side of things, the tangible, the intangible. And we need both, obviously, right? So one practice that I do, I have a client that she's launching a group program, and she said to me, "I want to have 100 people in the space." And I was like, "Okay, I want you to write down everything you would need to receive 100 clients in 2 weeks' time." So that means onboarding all these people. That means getting payments from everyone. That means XYZ. And when she sat with it, she was like, "That feels really bad. Like I felt stressed just figuring out what that felt like." And I was like, "Great, let's readjust." right? Because it's one of the worst things to do to ourselves, truthfully, if I can speak blunt, like we're doing it to ourselves, is to set a goal that is infused with a form of self-sabotage. So with
That,
this example, yeah, with
that,
this example, right? Like set unrealistic goals,
yeah,
unrealistic to other people. But if it's unrealistic to you, that's self-sabotage. And when I say unrealistic to you, what I mean is like if you looked at it and you were like 100 clients in 2 weeks and you were like, that feels horrible.
yeah, yeah.
That's unrealistic to you. But if you have an automated system where 100 people could join without you lifting a finger and that feels good, that's an unrealistic goal to other people, but not unrealistic to you. And
Exactly.
that's the sweet spot,
Yeah.
right? But like if you're feeling into, oh, this is the goal, this is what I want, this is what I'm creating. If I'm going to go full time in my business, I would want this, this, and this. Do you have things in place for that? Right? Like, do you need an assistant? Do you need a mentee that you train? Like, if you do graphic design, I have somebody who's a graphic designer, and she's like, I want to double the business. Okay, how do you do that? Well, I stopped doing all these little designs. Okay, how do you stop doing that? Right? Like, what structure, what tangible pieces need to be put in place in order for you to manifest it, to
Mhm.
bring it to life, to create the space, to get the car out of the driveway, to release the handful of candy so that you can have 2 handfuls of candy, to get the nice new car, to like let the door open for you. But also, yeah, you might need to build the door.
Mhm.
You might need to build the door. You need to build the pathway, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's so important that I had so many thoughts as I was listening to you. And I have the program, it's called the Divinely Purposed Biz. And the whole purpose of that is to help shift that mindset. Because not only is it, like you said, a way to sabotage ourselves, but we put ourselves in this negative mindset because we're comparing. Well, so and so has a group and they're showing that they have another sign up and another sign up, or $10,000 worth of signups in the first 24 hours of launch, or whatever, right? But it really does come back to, what does it feel for you and what are your priorities? So an example of this briefly is like, my priority is family because I'm a single mom and I'm a disabled Army veteran. So my child and my health have to come first. So when I first started launching one-on-ones, for example, I was like, oh, I could do 15 a week. It's okay. It's cool. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not my energy. Like, and because of how I love on people and how much I really enjoy it, it went from being this really high vibe, I'm excited to do it, to all of a sudden I'm also managing all of the back end, right? And it's like, this is not feeling good. So in order to feel good, I know what my maximum one-on-ones are during the day and what it feels good for my group programs and how to manage and how to prioritize, and understand that opportunities and priorities don't always line up. So it's okay to say no. No is a full and complete sentence. It does not
Yeah.
need explanation, right? So understanding that and telling ego to rest, telling your mental body to rest so that you have an opportunity to share your light in the best way, to magnetize, to call in, and to stay in alignment with your strategy that feels good for you. And I love what you had said about the alignment. I know I'm kind of circling backwards again, but when I see it, it's a visual picture for me, because I feel like I have often made choices that kind of got me off path, and it took me the long way around to get to the same place. Um, and I learned lessons that I wouldn't have learned necessarily on the shorter path, right? Which I'm able to then apply to the people who come into my orbit. So I try to look at things like, yeah, it's an opportunity. Yeah, it took me, instead of taking me 6 months, it took me a year, or instead of taking 2 days, it took me this length of time, but I'm better for it because, right? And I just try to look at it that way, because it's like you said, like it's all within us, and all of that experience, all of that practice, it plays a pivotal and important role in how we show up and how we support the people that we are here to support. And that is the magic sauce that is a huge part of the blueprint that is you as a soulpreneur and in your marketing and how you show up as this version of yourself, right? That you take forward. So I just love it. I love all of that. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover that we must? I know I'm a talker too, so I've gotten off topic multiple times during this.
It's all good. It's all playing a role, right? Like that
Yes.
purpose talk, right? Like
Yes.
everything in this conversation is linked to our purpose, and nothing is out of alignment. Everything is actually completely on the path of what it's supposed to be today.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there's multiple things in this conversation that lands for different people. And we were talking right before going live about like, if there is something that, you know, if somebody's watching and they're like, oh, I want to go deeper, go ahead and ask the question. And I think that also comes back to like self-leadership. Self-leadership is also radical responsibility and accountability. Okay, if I have the question and I wish that they said it, you don't know if like you're going to get the right answer, the wrong answer, or no answer, unless you actually ask the question, you know, unless you actually put 2 feet in and say, yeah, I'm ready to receive.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a really big thing as entrepreneurs too, is like, let yourself receive. And sometimes you may need to ask to receive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. And, you know, with the conversation earlier swaying from ego driven to heart driven and all of that, there's no shame in saying I am being in my ego right now and I need to kind of bring it back to center, or I need to pull back, or I should pause, reset, and ask for support, ask for someone else's guidance, dive into it. And I'm going to say this is like, it's going to come off, it may come off flat, but it's honest. Sometimes you need support. And I've said this a million times. Support can look like therapists. It can look like mentors. It can look like spiritual healers and shamans. It can look like marketing experts. It can look like a virtual assistant. It can look different. There's no judgment. How you need support is how you need support. How you open yourself up to receive it will be how fast you achieve what it is that you want to achieve. For me, I'm going to be honest, right? Always honest and transparent. Pride and ego got in my way. And I'm like, I should know this already. I should be able to do this. Why do I have to ask for help? But once you open that door and you open it to aligned community, people who are going where you're going, who've been where you've been, who have the skills, who have the insight to help you accelerate your path, that's when stuff happens. No one that you see who has an amazing business, right? Especially online, because there's this facade online where people are like, oh, I made my first $1 million my first month online, right? You have to also consider, did they have a team around them? Did they have a community around them? Did they go in debt in order to get to that place, right? And how transparent are they being in what it is that they're sharing? And so there's so many other things to consider. So be true to yourself. And if you need support, if you feel like you lack anything, support, community, insight, experience, reach out for help, because people are not mind readers, and they're not just going to come knock at your front door and say, hey, here, have my services, right? You have to seek it out as a part of your self-mastery, self-discovery, and a part of being an entrepreneur, a soulpreneur, and building a business, not a hobby. They're completely different, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to say that. So if you feel like you need support, reach out, tap into it, access it. I've put all of your amazing links for your podcast and all of that on here. Do you want to share a little bit about your call that you're offering to everyone too?
Yeah, I'd love to share that. I also just had a side thought from some of the things that you said. Surprise! I think we could talk for another like 45 minutes. But yeah, I was hosting this masterclass. So I do a number of like lower priced masterclasses for my community. And we did one on Friday that was called Your 6-Figure Year. And so much of the conversation was around like, okay, if you are mapping out your first 6-figure year, what does that look like? And so kind of touching on what you just said, like my first 6-figure year was like $102,000. I spent like 35,000 investing in creating that. One of my clients who had her first 6-figure year, that year she invested somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000. And so not just what resources do you need, not like what money do you need, right? Because most of the time, most of the people that you see doing that, they don't have the money up front. They take out a personal loan, or they put on a credit card and then they make the money back because they have built that self-trust and they know that they're fully committed. It's not a side hobby. It's their thing. It's their purpose. They're doing it.
Yeah.
But also, who do you need to be to create that? Like, what level of bravery do you need to step into? One of the things I was reflecting on recently was like, because we're all in growth, right? Like I go in my ego and I go in my heart, and I'm doing really well and I'm doing really bad. And like I have like a great relationship and then I get my heart broken. Like we're all human. We're all navigating some whatever all the time. That's
all the time.
If it's over, it's done, you're dead, right? Like that's the only time you stop being human. You just become a soul, whatever. Talk for another time.
Yeah, I totally, yeah.
Yeah, but like, what do you need to double down on? So for this season of my life, I sat back and I really took inventory of like, what do I need to double down on? Is it trust? Is it faith? Is it support? Is it motivation? Is it doubling down on activating my fire and getting cups filled in my life that will inspire that fire? And so it's really doing that like deep work and that inventory to ask like, what needs to change in order for that to happen, right? If we just sit here and we never actually map out what it looks like to hit the goal that we're reaching, then it's actually pretty hard to reach it. And it's not coming from a space of mapping it out and attaching to it and saying this is the only way to happen, right? Like so much of the strategy that I teach my clients is not fine-tuned until we've done a little of the roll up the sleeves and do the work, right? It's just kind of this like sort of loose structure that they get to step into. And then from there, it's kind of like if you move into a new apartment, you're not really going to figure out the decorations until you're in the apartment and you're like, oh, this is what it feels like. Something belongs there, something belongs there. That's how we build a strategy for a business to scale as well. And so I wanted to throw that in there as well. Like, who do you need to be in order for these things to happen when you map it out? And how can you double down on that? How can you hold yourself accountable? How can you maybe get yourself in a space or invest in mentorship or get in a Facebook group that's going to hold you accountable to do that? Because if it were easy, you'd probably have already done it, right? If it were easy, everyone would have done it.
Yeah. And just listening to how you're sharing this, it circles back to some of the conversations I have with people who are kind of on the fence about, am I ready to make this a business? Am I not? What am I going to do? And they're kind of back and forth, and really making that intentional decision that this is going to be my business and not a hobby means that you are all in. You're going to make mistakes, and it's not a 9-to-5 job where you have to go clock in and you know exactly what you need to do. It's being flexible, and it's understanding that you may have been really passionate about this project and then something came up and then you understood that that's not it, right? So it gets put on pause until you complete something else. And a huge part of that, I had a mentor who shared with me once that, running your own business is the fastest way to just jump into personal development and really just set it on fire, because you're going to understand like what your strengths and what your weaknesses are really fast. And you have to be able to think quick and think on your feet. And sometimes done is better than perfect. And you can always go back and refine it, and that's okay. And really getting out of that mindset of it has to be like an like a corporate job where everything is structured and you have someone looking over your shoulder saying like, hey, this is how it's supposed to be. No, go be creative, right? And take bite-sized pieces to get you to that next step, to that next layer or that next level.
For sure.
Yeah.
I would say business development is self-development.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, it truly, truly is. And I just want to share, like, most of the time, they've actually done studies on this with women. I don't know if they've done it like overall, but women will wait until they're overqualified to feel qualified.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying, if for the men, the males, the wonderful souls, I'm not trying to like pick one gender or the other. I'm just saying that you're more than likely you're already qualified, right? If you have the thought, if you have the feeling, the calling that there's more and that you are here to do something, just get it out of your body, write it down, and start figuring out your steps or who you need to get into contact with in order to make it happen. Because more than likely, if you have the thought, if you have the passion, you're qualified to do something, right? So yes, yes, yes. Was there anything else that you wanted to share with the amazing people today? I think they're all going to watch the replay. We have a few people on.
Good. Yeah, I mean, if you catch the replay, definitely let us know. Tag me if you've got questions for me specifically, if you want more information about any of these things. I do have a podcast, so I highly recommend listening to the podcast. It's called Soul Purpose Driven. I believe we have all the links in the caption for you in the description. My favorite platform is Instagram, and I would love to connect with you all there. I have a pretty good sized community, which I just say because if you're coming from here, I would love to know that you're coming from here. And I would love to receive a message from you, not just like a follow, like put yourself maybe a little out of your comfort zone and like say hi and get the conversation and let's build real community, real true heart to heart community. I want to know you. I want to hear you.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's people being in that space are a lot of what really got me started in my journey. And so when we were preparing for today's call, I was actually reflecting on this man who offered me mentorship right at the start of my business. And he offered me a pro bono call. And that's all it was just a call for me to get support, to get coached. And we had like 2 or 3 interactions, and I still like quote this man and love him and send him gratitude all the time. So for the community, for a limited time, you can book a 45-minute pro bono call. So it's complimentary, and we would just dive into a bit more about strategy, marketing, leadership, what you're creating, what you're doing, what you need clarity on. And I'm just extending that out of my heart, my love for people who are doing this kind of work. Soulpreneurs who are trying to change the world. I'd love to be a part of your story and be a catalyst for you as you become a catalyst for others and better the stories of others, right? Yeah. I always think of it as like writing love stories, you know. This journey has been my greatest love story yet, and I'd love to watch yours unfold too.
That's beautiful. And I'm so grateful for your time today. I'm grateful for you sharing your communities with us and the catalyst call, or the, not the catalyst call. What are we calling it? The
pro bono call.
Pro bono call. I lost the word just that fast. The pro bono call. I know that allowing people space and time, it's, you become an activator for them, even if it takes them a little bit of time to act on certain things. And I think what you've been able to share and just your energy and your light today, I'm so grateful for it. And I just want to say thank you. And I'm so glad that you're here, and I look forward to doing more things in the future.
Same. We just had an incredible conversation that's probably going to inspire me to write some emails. So
yay,
this is great. And every time you and I have connected, we've had these incredible conversations. So I have to like do an interview with you on my Instagram or something like that sometime soon, and really keep these conversations going, because I I know, especially when I was starting out, stuff like this was so helpful for me. And it really did light a fire under me that encouraged me to take the leap, to both feed in, to get the support, um, to commit to the things that held me accountable to create the business that I have today.
Yeah, yeah, I got chills just listening to that too. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. All right. Well, I'm sending so much love to all of you who are either live with us today or on the replay. Make sure that you comment, leave your questions. We will go throughout the day and answer questions here and there. Make sure that you book your pro bono call and get some time scheduled to just see where perhaps you have a blind spot, or you could receive some love and some support or guidance. So I'm sending love to each and every single one of you, and I hope that you guys have a lovely day. Bye.
Bye.